Hello, everyone. I welcome you all to EduTap, and I would like to thank Mr. Ashish Krishna today for sparing out time and coming up on this session for sharing his strategy. And let me tell you, what strategy is this? I think you already know. We are discussing about the selections in RBI Grade B. So, Mr. Ashish is recently selected RBI Grade B officer. Thank you, Ashish. Warm welcome and congratulations.
Thank you so much for the wishes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So we are really delighted to have you today. We'll be happy to know about your strategy, your preparation, everything we'll discuss, right? Before we begin, would you please tell us about your education background and even your like work experience or any other thing related to that?
Right. I graduated back in 2018 from Triple IT Gwalior. It was an integrated degree. I did my BTech in IT, and we were given a choice to opt either for MTech or an MBA, but I opted for MBA because while I was in my college, my primary target was to appear for UPSC Civil Services. Uh, in my final year, I got placed in a analytics firm which goes by the name Axtria, which is based out of Gurgaon. Um, but fortunately or unfortunately, I managed to clear prelims in my first attempt. So I had to face a choice whether I join the private company or I go for whole hog for my mains preparation. I chose the latter. I even managed to clear mains, went up to interview round, but finally could not make it to the finalist. I got 974 marks, if my memory serves me right. So I missed out by a few marks. Could not clear prelims in the next round. Then, yeah, that's pretty much about my graduation. We'll come to the next stages later.
So, like, I would say a pretty much interesting story, right? Coming from an engineering background, got placed, did not go for the job, started preparing for UPSC, appeared in the interview on the very first attempt. So, that is also a big feat, right? But then you said that after that, you took RBI for the first time in 2019, right? That was your
That's
first
right.
attempt, where you could not clear the phase one of RBI.
That's
So,
right.
and after that, this was your 2021 was your second attempt, and you were selected, sitting with us. So I would say that Ashish, many people would be able to relate to you because of obviously coming from the engineering background, not taking up the job. One section of people, aspirants, you must be knowing. Then another category of the students are there who either have been in the process of UPSC preparation or have now left and now are preparing for RBI, right? And third, I would say very important category of students who are not able to, for any of the reason, are not able to clear the phase one of RBI. So we'll discuss all these three things with you. That because see, you have all the experiences. These three, you will be the best person to tell about this. So please tell us about the background of UPSC which helped you. Do you think that the background helped you first? And do you think that students who do not have UPSC background would find it difficult to clear the exam? Is there some, because students have this notion कि UPSC वाले बच्चे ही clear कर पाते हैं. Is it so?
To answer your first question, ma'am, yes, a very strong, very resolute yes that UPSC played a very important part in my RBI preparation as well. I'll start with my 2019 attempt, RBI attempt. I gave it that phase one happened in the month of October, November, if I'm not wrong. And I had appeared for UPSC prelims that year right after my rejection from the interview round for the second time. And I also got rejected in the second prelims, that is 2019 round. So I was, this prelims, RBI 2019 prelims was coming on the back of two successive rejections. I detached myself from the UPSC preparation in those months between my prelims result and my RBI phase one. I gave 3 solid months to RBI. I did not read anything else. I went for some courses and I was dedicating good solid hours of my day for RBI preparation. And yet I could not clear the phase one. I missed it by 2 or 3 months. That year, the last round, if our audience would be able to relate with this, they might be knowing this, that last RBI Grade B examination, phase one marks cutoff were very, very high. It was
Yeah.
122, if I'm right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 118.75 near about. That was not a very good
Mm-hmm.
feeling. Uh, so at that time, I did make up my mind that if I can give 2, 3 months and I can reach so close, and because I had already cleared UPSC mains, so this was my belief that if I'm able to get past, and RBI phase one is particularly difficult and challenging for people who are coming from UPSC because the quant and reasoning section specifically, they are very, very challenging.
That's right.
The equivalent examination in UPSC, the CSAT one, it's nowhere as difficult.
Hmm.
So
That's right.
yeah. So for me, I had thought that if I'm able to work on those two particular areas, maybe I would be able to crack it in the next attempt, and that's what I did to some extent. This time I was able to get through, and finally I am a grade B.
Wonderful. So,
And
yes, the preparation helped you. It obviously, see, I think you would agree that not only UPSC, whatever work experiences or any other preparation, if you have done. Like I was talking to another selected candidate, he cleared SSC CGL. So he said that his preparation of quant reasoning in SSC helped him a lot. So it is UPSC anyhow helps. It grooms you, I would say, overall. And especially because you cleared like two phases of that exam, so you might have like got more exposure to the complete process. So that helped you.
yes,
But
ma'am.
my second question
There is
also.
one.
Hmm.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. There is one
Please.
thing which I wanted to mention specifically. UPSC preparation played a very, very important part. I would say not in phase one, but it did play a very important part in phase two, specifically the ESI paper,
Hmm.
because this time we did not get a lot of time between phase one and phase two. And the ESI paper is very much now with the pattern change and everything. The ESI paper is very much aligned to what UPSC demands. The questions are pretty much on the same lines. And if you've got a certain pedigree with the UPSC examination, you would not find it challenging. So
Hmm.
that is one very big advantage that UPSC people have. But that is not that great an advantage that RBI people who are dedicatedly preparing for RBI, they would not be able to surmount. Um, it's a small help. That's
Hmm.
I would. That's how I would like to term it. Yeah. So that answers first question, ma'am. And what was the second question?
My second question is that there is a notion, because when we see that a lot of people from UPSC background are coming and getting selected. So the new aspirants or people who do not have UPSC background, they somewhere feel kind of intimidated that we do not have UPSC background, we might not be able to clear. So is that so? Do you think that only people with UPSC background can clear this examination?
Uh, I can testify this that we have a group of people who are selected, and uh, I don't see that there is an overwhelming majority of people with UPSC background in it. There are bankers, mostly there are bankers. There are people who are serving in SEBI. There are people who are serving in insurance companies. But UPSC per se, it does help. It did help me. But it is not that big an advantage that if you're not into UPSC, you might not be able to clear RBI. That is not the case. It still has components for which you really have to detach, like I did. I detached myself from UPSC preparation for 2, 3 months. And if I would not have done it, I would not have been able to clear this examination.
So yes, as you rightly said that few things it is definitely going to help, but again it depends on you as an individual, as an aspirant. That do you identify the things that are going to help you and what things you need to prepare. Like for that matter, finance and management, I would say that you also prepared like it management especially. Not at all you would have read in UPSC. So that is one thing. Such things are there for other aspirants also. They must not be intimidated at least, right?
Finance and management, I found particularly challenging for RBI, even though I am an MBA pass out. Uh, I found it really, really hard, really difficult. And that lion's share of my time went to conquer these two fronts.
We will know the strategy later on when we talk about like your subject wise strategy. So, one thing I would like to know before we proceed, how did you come to know about RBI? Although you have told me a very interesting story of your childhood, but I would want you to share the same with aspirants also. Like, how did RBI happen to you?
Sure, ma'am. Uh, this is going to be a long story. So, when I was in class 11, I have done my schooling from Patna. I was in Loyola High School, and RBI conducted a nationwide quiz competition for the first time in 2011. And my school happened to be the host for the regional rounds in Patna. And because RBI came to my school and I was into quizzing at the time, I got to participate in that quiz. And our school, my team won. I won in that quiz competition. And for the next round, we were sent to Kolkata for the zonal finals. Um, the entire trip was sponsored by RBI. We were given flight tickets. We were lodged in a three-star hotel. We
Mhm.
were given entire Volvo buses to move around for a few kilometers. There were McDonald's burgers in infinite supply, and everything that an 11th class student would find enticing, apart from the serious stuff, it was all there. And we were frankly blown away when we landed on the airport and uh, an officer came to receive us, pick us up from the airport. It was so amazing from that time to the time we were dropped back at the airport. I made so many good friends. And it hit a crescendo when we got to meet the then RBI Governor, Dr. B. Subbarao. We were quizzed by the expert quizmaster, Mr. Barry O'Brien. So that entire experience was so amazing. And um, when I came back, I was sitting with my mother one day, and we were discussing stuff, and I randomly blurted out that it was so amazing. The experience was so amazing that someday I might even try to become an officer in RBI. I was so amazed, so enthused by this entire experience. And after 9 years, we have come a very long circle that I have finally become a grade B officer in RBI. So
That is,
that was,
it was the, like, I would say, one of the, not one of the, till now, most interesting story. Because see, this question is very common. How did RBI happen? But the story that you told is actually really, I would say, inspiring. And it somewhere you wanted to be a part of the organization, and today you are there. Such a coveted job you have got. I would.
there's one piece of information I'd like to give, ma'am. I was getting ready for this interview, and I just checked my LinkedIn profile, and I saw that Alpna Khilawala, ma'am, she has advised so many governors. I had read about her in Dr. Viral Acharya's book, as well as Dr. Subbarao's book. Uh, Her name is in the credits page, and she has commented on my this story. I have posted this story on LinkedIn, and that got me so psyched. Uh, I was so happy that somebody about whom I just read for the interview, she has personally congratulated me on my profile, reading the story. That is another thing. And one extra piece. I'm sorry if you find this
No, no,
boring,
not
but
at all. We are here for you.
I'm so excited. So yeah, so there's one interesting piece of information that our results came out on September 11th, 2021, and I won this competition, this regional round on September 11th, 2012.
Oh, that is really, like, I would say, a coincidence is a small word.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly 9 years after.
So, probably what I can say is that you might have actually been so much into the RBI quiz when you went. You witnessed the grandiose there, probably. So you attracted it, I would say. And then obviously, hard work is there. Nothing is you can get without hard work. So you worked hard and you attracted it with so positive energy that, yes, on the same date, you got selected for the same
Yes,
organization.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Even that experience, it has influenced me so much that when I was doing my MBA in my college, all of my subjects were from finance. It was that 11th class student, he did not know much about finance till the time he had participated in the quiz. But when I came back, even while preparing for the quiz, and very much after that, I made it a point to read the economics page of the newspaper very seriously. I used to make points. Even while reading for UPSC, economics used to be one of my favorite subjects. So it did influence me a lot in my life, and it drove me to where I am right now.
right now. And obviously, we like hope, we wish that you are going to climb the ladder and get or like clear more steps, right,
Thank you so much,
in your
ma'am. Thank
career.
you so much.
Ashish, talking about your preparation, you said that you were reading newspaper, economy section especially. So, would you suggest for the future aspirants, other students who are still preparing, that they should refer to a newspaper for current affairs of the examination, or for like general understanding of this events going on, especially economic section? And also, if any newspaper that you can refer that you found was very helpful to you.
Ma'am, I have always had a habit of reading newspaper. Even when I was small, I used to read newspapers very avidly, and I believe that newspapers serve the primary uh, duty, primary role of clearing your basic concepts. Because when you are starting as an aspirant, you don't know what to read, where to read from. And if you take the plunge with newspapers, you read and you jostle through all the newspapers like for a month or maybe 1.5 months. The topics which are recurring, the issues which are being raked up in newspapers, you start to get an idea what issues are important and what issues you're supposed to track. So even in the later stages, when you go for compilations, you go for current affairs magazines, there are so many options available, offline, online, and most of them are free. So there is a need to sort what things are important and what are not. There are many things in the current affairs compilations which you're not supposed to remember. So if you have read newspapers for a long time and if you were introduced to this entire preparation journey via newspapers, you get the knack of sorting things out, which stuff to read and which to not read and not even make notes of. And as far as preference of newspaper is concerned, I did read Hindu for a very long time, not while preparing. In the pre-preparation phase, I'll say, I did read Hindu, and for my entire RBI cycle, for 5-6 months, I had read Business Standard newspaper.
Business standard. Yes. So, guys, this is a very, I would say, you should make note of this point, which Ashish has shared with you, that newspaper is not only required for like knowing the current affairs, it will also help you in getting the understanding that what is required for your examination, what is relevant. You should have like more knowledge about it and what is not. And I believe that it might be, it not it might, it is helpful till your interview phase, because that understanding of the events going on or the developments taking place in the country is obviously making you more aware, right?
Correct, ma'am. That's true.
Okay. So that was about newspaper. So coming to the preparation, right, of phase one, firstly. So in your last attempt, 2019, when you attempted the examination, and this attempt, there was a huge difference of the examination pattern. Earlier, there used to be no descriptive paper, but this time RBI introduced the descriptive paper in phase two. And in phase one, although the pattern did not change, but the questions were also not on the expected lines as they used to be earlier. So when you saw the paper this time, your phase one paper, what was your reaction? Like, what did you feel? Okay, okay, I have prepared, I am fine with it, or like I don't know what you would have felt
All
at that
hell
time.
broke loose, ma'am. All hell broke loose. When I saw the paper, it was, ये क्या आ गया? it was uh, it was a shock, and the general awareness part was pretty much on the expected lines. It was very difficult this year, but that is expected. The general awareness part is very dynamic, and even in the past, RBI papers have had this fluctuation when suddenly one year they have become very difficult. The main difference that I found between last year and this year was the quant and reasoning part, and I found it very tough. I did solve a decent number of questions, but it was very, very difficult. And I feel that going ahead, uh, the phase one preparation would require candidates to focus very much on this two components, that is quantitative and reasoning part. And even the English paper, I have been decent in my language, but even then I found it to be challenging. It was not that easy. So uh, these three components this time required candidates to be very, very, I'd say, rooted in very in practice, practicing questions a lot, specifically for this examination. And as I said about GA is it was pretty much on the expected lines. We all prepare for GA. Yes, ma'am.
How did you prepare for GA? Like, was there any specific source that you referred, or uh, like there were number of sources that you referred for GA? Because we know for GA, although the current affairs, especially as they were asked this time, they were also related to your ESI part. They were also related to somewhere finance, right? So the preparation of current affairs is going to be integrated. You cannot always, there is no difference that acha, this is specifically not useful for phase two. It might be ESI hai, to current affairs might be asked in GA and phase two ESI also. But still, that the minimum sources that one student should read, or what you read for your
Uh,
GA.
Ma'am, because I was a civil services aspirant and I was tackling two exams at the same time, so I had to tweak my strategy this time around. Uh, so my answer is not going to be very helpful for people who are preparing full time for RBI. I think people who are giving many examinations, I think my answer might help them because people who are dedicatedly preparing for RBI, they are at a very strong footing. They're at a terra firma, and so I'll share what I read. I by primary because I was short of time for all phases, even phase one, phase two. Phase one happened just after UPSC mains this year,
Hmm.
so I did not get time at all for phase one. So for current affairs, my UPSC current affairs compilations and the newspapers that I used to read, they served as a platform. And for RBI specifically, I referred to monthly current affairs compilation. It was from bankersadda.com. There is Hindu Review, 30 pages. So if you're done with UPSC current affairs and you build upon that repository with a 30-page, 40-page odd current affairs magazine, I think that is enough for the GA part. And apart from that, I have had a very bad habit of staying put on Twitter. So
Hmm.
as hard as I've tried to leave social media, I have still not been able to get rid of Twitter. And funnily enough, I have had so many questions in the examination which I could solve from there. I read some article on Twitter, and it came in the examination. So though I do not recommend it at all, I I would say that current affairs compilations and newspapers are pretty much sufficient for general awareness paper for phase one.
For phase one, okay.
Yeah.
And what about quant and reasoning?
Quant and reasoning, ma'am, for that I relied on EduTap's course material. I watched the lectures, I did practice, and I made very short notes of the tricks you need to solve questions faster. I have like in a page I have made uh, small cells and I try to fit one entire topic in half a page.
Hmm.
So just before examination, I open up and I just revise what are the tricks, what different type of questions there I saw in the video, and I used to appear in the examinations like that.
Okay. And Ashish, there is one huge difference in your examination of UPSC and RBI. The time, I would say, because the number of sections, quant, reasoning, English, GA in one paper, and of course, there's a time constraint also. So, how did you manage that? The exam pressure, the time constraint, and of course, we see that students acquaint themselves with the exam pattern or in the time pressure through mock tests. But did you take mock tests or did you take some other method that helped you to clear examination?
Ma'am, as I said, I could not get much time this time around, but I did solve some 4 to 5 mocks before appearing for the examination because that primes you for the exam. You know how to manage your time. I did that just before, I guess I did that some 1 or 2 days before the examination.
So that helped you. Do you feel that, like, rather than just completely avoiding the mocks, you should be acquainted? Would you suggest that?
Yes, ma'am, I would definitely suggest that because um, I think what's important for phase one is not that whether you are able to solve questions or not. What's important is to eliminate what you are not supposed to solve.
Hmm.
Specifically, I would say that in the reasoning section, there is a particular type of seating questions which is very, very tricky. And last time around, I found myself wasting too much of my time on those questions. And because of that, all the other sections go awry. So if you practice mocks, you get to know what questions you're not supposed to answer in the examination. You're just supposed to leave them. I just gave an example of the seating question. There are many other questions.
Hmm.
Uh, you get the feel of that.
I think that would be pretty helpful for the students. How to go for the current affairs, the preparation is required for quantum reasoning. You cannot say that quantum reasoning ho hi jayega. It requires hard work, effort. You have to do, right? And of course, mock tests, they will help you to acquaint yourself, to identify, as you said, what to do, what not to do, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Ashish, this time when we have seen that what was your reaction in the paper when you came out of the paper, phase one, what was the feeling at that time? Did you start preparing for phase two directly, or you were having this mixed feeling? Hoga nahi hoga.
I apologize to my parents. They had to drive me 25 kilometers to my center. So I straight up came and I apologized that, uh, Ma Papa, it was very tough. And I don't think if I would be able to clear it. I did my best. And it was pretty shocking because this time around, the phase one results and cutoff were very, very different from last year.
Yes,
So,
it cutoff fell drastically
yes,
as compared to half, almost half of the
yes,
previous year.
yes. So that's what
So,
it was. I was,
and when you got to know that you are like this is the cutoff and you have cleared, then what did you like strategy basically for like I have to appear in phase two, and descriptive is also there. Although you had the experience of writing papers and all, but this is the online writing you have to do keyboard. So फिर क्या strategize किया, steps क्या बनाए preparation के लिए?
uh, ma'am, before this, I did not have any prior exposure to the finance and management paper because uh, even in my previous attempt, I started preparing for finance and management, but results came out pretty soon after phase one. So I could hardly finish 1 or 2 modules from the EduTap platform. So I was very, very ill prepared for the FM paper. So when I came to know that I had cleared my phase one, my immediate focus was on the finance and management paper. And since I did not have a lot of time, I did not go for any books, any written source. I made use of the video courses that were there on EduTap. And I made sure that I watched every single video twice because if you watch videos just once, at the time you feel that you have seen everything and you would recall everything in the examination. But some 7, 8 days after, you forget everything. So I planned my entire strategy knowing that I have to watch every video twice. I watched every video on 2x, so that helped. So that is about finance and management paper, uh, completely dependent on the EduTap module. About the ESI paper, uh, because I sat in mains examination, I had memorized all the mains 365 compilation of Vision IAS. So I took up the economics module and the society module, and I just went through it once. And my current affairs preparation, it kept me up to date with all the recent happenings that's there, which was required to tackle the objective questions. And I would like to point out for ESI as well as FM that the importance of economic survey and budget,
Hmm.
it is very, very, very important because I remember in phase two, the objective part, there were at least 4, 5 questions which are directly from the budget.
Budget, yes.
So that is another thing. And apart from that, I did not pay much attention to the static part because 2 3 years of UPSC preparation gave me a solid background. So I did not prepare much on that count. And as far as English preparation is concerned, I could not get the time to prepare at all, anything for English paper. I had written essays in my college. I was into literary activities. So I kind of depended on that. I could not prepare for English paper. That was how I prepared for my case.
So, like, I have two, three questions from this part, what you have just told. First, as you said, union budget and survey are very important, right? For, I would say they are even relevant for your objective paper phase two, and if even for phase one, they are important. So, how did you prepare those two things, survey and budget?
Sorry, ma'am, I did not read the entire document. I did want to, but I was very, very short of time. So I had to go for the summary document which comes out. It was some coaching institute summary that I read. I can't recall at the time for survey as well as budget. And I made very, very short notes of the major points which I could sort. And then again, as I talked about the importance of newspaper, because I was reading newspaper, I could
Hmm.
know what topics were important, which could be asked in the examination from the survey and the budget. Because uh, the mains phase two happened sometime after the economic survey and budget. So it's you do not expect questions to be asked if there is a certain 3 4 months gap between the exam and the budget and survey. You tend to focus. You have a bias towards what has happened more recently. But
Hmm.
because what was happening more recently was the stuff that was there in the budget and economic survey. They asked many questions out of it. So that underlines why newspapers are important. So it was a mix of both.
That's actually right because if, as you said, you refer to the summaries or the PDFs that are available. See, I feel that all the important things that are mentioned or the developments in survey or budget are there, they are anyhow going to be covered. If they are like impacting larger public, they will be covered pretty decently in your newspapers also. So if you keep on reading newspaper, as you said, you will be able to like take out the important points that, acha, this I read in newspaper, this thing was mentioned there from budget. They specifically said कि discoms के लिए ये करना है और this is a new scheme which has been in news. तो वो relevant हो जाता again in newspaper will, like I would say, aid your preparation what you are referring from the summaries and PDFs.
Correct. Correct.
Very nice. ठीक. So one, that you have told us about your budget and survey. You said sources like FM static majorly current affairs weightage in FM is anyhow really less as compared to ESI. So the
Yeah.
static syllabus, the course material you referred for ESI, current affairs you were preparing, the sources you have told, and static you again because of your UPSC background, you had a pretty decent knowledge. And I think, of course, for ESI static, in FM you do not need to run behind current affairs. In ESI, you do not need to run behind static as of
Static.
now. A
That's
balanced
right.
approach is required. Hmm.
Correct.
ठीक है.
Correct.
And what about your like practice of answer writing online, keyboard using? I have heard that interface is not that friendly to the students.
It is not that simple. That's correct, man. Because uh, I started typing. The thing is, there is one particular thing that I want to point out. Because it was the first time and we didn't know exactly. I did appear for one mock, and that mock was nothing like what actually was served in the examination.
Hmm.
So the question statement which was given in the examination, the phase two examination, was that you are supposed to write answers in 400 words,
Hmm.
and the preposition used was in, not under.
Hmm.
And we had absolutely no idea about the word limit. We were said that there would be this number of descriptive questions, but the word limit was not mentioned anywhere. So when I saw the question for the first time and I saw that I was supposed to write in 400 words, so I literally took it as if the answer should have 400 words. It should not have less than 400 words, as what happens in pre-C level.
Hmm.
So for the first 2 3 questions, I wrote big, long 390, 395 word answers. And by the time I reached third question in the first paper, that was finance and management, I was very, very short of time. So, and even the interface, there were many, many problems. The enter keyboard was, I guess, there was some problem with changing lines. You could not
Hmm.
change multiple lines. Spacing was very different. It was difficult putting space between words. Indentation was also not allowed. You could not indent your answer. So the
Hmm.
answer looked smorgasbord of mumble jumble. It was all messed up.
Hmm.
Uh, so it won't happen for candidates, aspirants this time because now there is ample experience available. People like me, they're going to tell candidates what it was like. But yes, uh, henceforth, giving mocks for phase two, it is critical because if you are not able to know how much to write, how much to type, and even the typing speed differs from person to person. You can work on writing, increasing your writing speed very, very quickly. But for your typing, it is a very long, sustained effort, and you have to type a lot. It is a lot. Even by UPSC standards, I can testify we are supposed to write a lot in UPSC mains examination. But even by those standards, the answers were very, very lengthy in RBI, and especially you are also, and you have to quickly switch from that objective mode to descriptive mode. It takes time
Hmm.
to gather yourself and to frame answers. So that is yet another thing, and I would suggest that any number of mocks that you attempt for phase two would be less. You go for all the mocks that you can afford for phase two specifically. It's even more important than phase one.
Practice, of course, is required. There's no like denial in that. That because the reason is that you have to first of all type. There are multiple factors. Your typing speed should be good. You should be writing properly. Your English should also be decent. And of course, what content you are writing, that has to be like knowledge. You should be a knowledgeable person. You cannot write anything. So these things are there. Reading skills are to be there, right? ठीक है, तो ये हो गया प्रैक्टिस का अबाउट योर answer writing. Now, will you please share like 2-3 tips I would request you to share with the students for answer writing, like how to frame good answers? Few tips if you can share. 2 to 3.
Um, the first thing that I would suggest is please don't go for multiple sources. Whatever you read, even if it is less, please read as many sources as you can revise just before. I have a dictum with which I comply all the time, and I am a strong believer in that. That I don't read stuff which I cannot revise 1 week before the examination, and I revise multiple times because I believe that if you have not revised something at least 3 to 4 times before examination, it is useless. You are not going to replicate in the examination. So for writing answers, and given the time is so less and the questions are very to the point, so you're supposed to remember the exact committee's name, the exact year, the exact fact which is required at the time, and you're also supposed to frame that answer. So if you have not revised the important stuff, you're not going to recall it in time in the answer, and you're not going to frame legible, good impression making answer. Having said that, that was about reading and about writing. Uh, uh, Please read the question first. Look at the keyword if it's defined, if it's analyzed. Your answers are going to be modified according to that. Go for important terms in the answer. If it's asking you about something, let's say it's asking you write about policy rate changes in the recent past. So my strategy is to define policy rate first in a one line or two lines. And after defining, because while checking the evaluator, he or she is not immediately primed to read what you have written. So you are supposed to introduce them to your answer. So that one line definition really helps. They know what to expect in the first line, and that answer becomes very complete. So you define in the first line, then you move on to the important points, uh, answer the specific demand of question, and that introduction, body, and conclusion format is to be maintained while answering. And most importantly, time is to be managed really, really well in this examination. Uh, and that's where mocks step in. If you don't practice mocks, if you don't practice writing answers, uh, it is very difficult for you to write good answers, impression making answers in the phase two in the limited time. So write as many answers as you can, compare with your friends, make telegram groups of that. That's what I would suggest. That's what I do.
Okay, so to summarize, I would say the points you have said, that first is read as much as you can, revise. Just do not read and leave the things. You should be able to revise all that what you are reading. Then you said that framing a structure, introduction, body should be there, and do not just beat around the bush. Rather, mention the things that have been asked. And for that, you have to, like, three steps you mentioned: the introduction should be there, body should be there, and end with conclusion. Right. And then finally, the last point you said is of practice as much as you can, especially for phase two. You're emphasizing,
Yes,
because knowledge also you have to have, and then present it also. These things would be helpful for the student.
phase one, you in phase one you have the luxury of eliminating answers. You
Hmm.
can reach your answer. In phase two, you have to remember the exact precise information, and
Hmm.
for that you have to revise. You have to revise as many times as you
Okay. So I think that was, like, again, very insightful for the candidates who are preparing, who have appeared earlier and they could not make it. Takeaways are here, that these are the things you should do if you missed on these. And of course, for the new candidates, these are the golden words coming from Ashish, I would say. Okay. So Ashish, now please share with us your tips for interview preparation based on our own interview. Few, like, points you would like to mention that you should be prepared on these lines, or these are the things, like, must not do things, that you should not do such things for your interview.
Okay. So, because I had appeared for a UPSC interview before, so I had prior experience about uh, the do's and don'ts in the interview room. There is one particular thing that I used to falter a lot, and it took a very long time. That we were taught in the mocks that while you are sitting, you're supposed to unbutton your coat,
Hmm.
and I it was so difficult for me to unbutton my coat. I always used to forget this, and uh, jokes aside, there's so many things like these. You're supposed to stand. You're not supposed to sit before they ask you to. So that is pretty much covered in the mocks that you will give. So I would not go into that. Regarding the preparation, the theoretical preparation for interview, uh, I had primarily five sources. I read two newspapers for interview because one newspaper for interview it is not exhaustive. You need a second newspaper to fill in the gaps that the first newspaper was not able to provide you with the news. So two newspapers, and uh, I did not read many transcripts. I did not prepare questions answers from transcripts because transcripts they do not tell you what questions exactly are going to be asked. They just give you an idea what was relevant in that particular year. So it is not necessary that in the last year's transcript, if some candidate was being asked about, say, Island FS scam, you will not be asked about that this year because it's not relevant this year.
Hmm. That's
So
right.
read two, three transcripts, get an idea what type of questions, how they pose questions to you, what is the line of questioning that is being done by the panel, and what is the order. So that's about the transcripts. And I already said about the newspapers. Uh, then again, in this round, I chose Business Standard and Hindu because Business Standard would give you all the economics and finance stuff, and Hindu would cater to all the, like, I was asked a direct question of what's happening in Afghanistan in my interview.
Hmm.
So I found that Business Standard was not up to the mark to give me the entire idea, the entire information about what exactly the Afghanistan crisis was. So That's why I recommend two newspapers. And I made very short notes of the newspapers. I made one page notes for every day, and it used to have both the newspapers. So uh, I, from the time I started preparing for interviews, some 4 and a half months, uh, ev- uh, some 125, 130 pages of content I had. I revised it at the last time. Um, then I read few books. There is there is a document called Functioning and Working of RBI, which is the Bible of all interview preparation candidates. Uh, a new edition has been uploaded. I came to know while I was 2 3 days before my interviews. I was very frightened that a new edition has come up and I have not read it. So
Hmm.
that is one document. Then there is a bulletin which comes out, RBI bulletin. That is very, very important. That is very important. Please read from the bulletin, at least 2 or 3 editions of it. It really grounds you in what RBI is. It is very, I'd say it's very comprehensive. You get an idea of what RBI does as an organization. Uh, I read the annual report. I read the financial stability report which came out. I very readily consulted RBI's website. I revised the survey and budget. This was all the not so good stuff, the very rote learning stuff that I had to read. Apart from this, I read three books. The first book was called New Idea of India by Harsh Gupta and Rajiv Mantri. The second was Quest for Restoring Financial Stability by Deputy Governor Viral Acharya, I'm sorry. And I read Who Moved My Interest Rate by Dr. Duburi Subara. And I did not go for many mocks. I appeared in just two mocks because as I said, I just had to know what kind of questions and how it is asked to you. I just had to
Hmm.
get an idea. It completely depends on you. If you are confident enough to face an interview, I don't think you'd require more than 2 or 3 mocks, maybe.
So you found the mocks useful? Did, like, as you said, few, these are the things that you mentioned, very important sources. Okay. In mocks, on the other hand, it'll be like acquainting yourself with the interview. So did you find useful those two mocks or any number?
Ma'am, this year, uh, because everything was being conducted online.
Online,
So,
that's right.
yeah, so the end experience of me sitting in the interview room and facing the panel was very, very different from what I had in the mocks. So that way, I would say it was not very useful. But the thing is, mocks, even in UPSC, and I think it's pretty much valid for every other competitive examination, it's very difficult to imitate real life experience. I
Hmm.
believe that mocks are supposed to serve the purpose of boosting your confidence. So the mock in which you feel the most confident is the mock you stop appearing after. You're not supposed to appear for any other mock if you are very confident, even if it's the first mock. If you feel that you have performed spectacularly well, you don't appear for any further mocks. Confidence is the key. Even if you are asked questions in interview which you don't know about. I was asked 2 or 3 questions. I had absolutely no clue. But the tip is to not get all flustered, to not get very
Hmm.
um, scary, frightened. It is to face the panel with confidence. If you don't know something, it's perfectly okay. So that's the confidence thing, which is very very important. And if you feel that mocks are giving you confidence, if multiple mocks is your thing, then please go for it. But for me, two were sufficient.
A key point I would like to highlight. See, you have told us so many sources that you must refer, and you referred. I would say you referred to, like, out of your interest. Also, you read some books also, which were related to the organization, let's say, or you wanted to know more about it. After a wide reading of your budget survey, RBI website, I can see, was your, like, source, proper whole soul source for the preparation. After that also, you said, after such a wide reading and preparation, and of course, quite a good student, as we know you are, still you could not answer 2 3 questions. So this is what interview is all about, that it's not that you have to answer each and everything, rather how you handle those questions which you're not able to answer, and are you even, like, being confident that, Acha, I do not know this answer. So that is what it is all about. Because after reading all this, also, there might be a question you're not able to answer. So that is what happened with you also, but still you are here with us. So that works, it means. So students, I think
I had this the entire time.
yes. So the students must be, I would say, they will find this session very useful. I am obliged to have this conversation with you. It was a very insightful session. Thank you so much for coming, sparing out time for us, Ashish.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And in parting, I would like to, because my family is going to watch this video, so I would say that my family's support was very elemental in me becoming an officer today, and they supported me a lot. And I have had my fair share of failings. I stumbled a lot, and I did take a huge number of risky decisions across my career. But because it has ended up all well for me, I would say uh, that if there is enough motivation, there is enough intention, and you are really working hard, I believe that God does reward you at the end. Your efforts will never go waste. You would definitely make it to wherever you want to.
Absolutely right. And many, many congratulations to your family members also. Because, see,
Thank you
as
so
you
much,
said,
ma'am.
family support is very important and it is evident because you, as you yourself said, your journey started from UPSC, clearing interview to not clearing prelims to not clearing RBI phase one, and finally today at a position where I would say it's a dream job for many. And we wish again you all the very best for your career ahead. Many congratulations to you and your family members.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.